milk literally come from a cow. And I'm talking about the actual cow milk that a lot of people be getting when they go to the stores. And when you start getting into the human anatomy and you start talking about African Americans or you talk about melanated people, when you actually look at those statistics, we can't even drink milk. 98% of so-called black people is lactose intolerant because we don't even have the enzyme lactase to even break down the sugar, the actual sugar in milk. We don't even have it. We don't have that enzyme, but a lot of Caucasians do. Then when you look at the protein that come with milk called casein, we don't even have the exact enzymes, nor our hydrochloric acid in our stomach is even hot enough to even break it down. We do not have the physical capacity nor the physiology to even break down dairy products, and especially your cheese. And then most of your cheese is molded, which comes with a bunch of mycotoxins that's bad for the system. And all of these things fuel cancer growth. And then when you really start talking about these cows are 600 pounds. So when you look at the milk that come from the actual cow, it's to feed a 60-pound calf. I've never in my life seen a 60-pound infant come from a woman's womb, ever in my life. So think about this. You having a baby from 6 pounds to 9 pounds. If you got a real big baby, we'll say 9 and 13 pounds, which is humongous. We don't never see babies that big come outside of that. We talking about milk that come from an actual mammal that can get up to a ton, and that milk is made for her 60 to 100-pound baby calf. Now, if we're trying to get a 60-pound baby calf all the way up to a full-grown cow, which is a 600 to 1,000 pounds, sometimes even more, then we're going to need a bunch of protein, a bunch of sugars, and we're going to need a bunch of fats. And that's what's in cow's milk. And that's the reason why when people get on Inflamil that's from cow's milk, notice how big and how fat these babies be, and notice how overweight they be, because they have the IGFs, which stands for insulin-like growth factors, or what you would call insulin-like animal growth hormones. So you taking in net, which is very, very acidic. Then you taking in all of that casein proteins, which has a bunch of protein paired amino acids in it, which is very acidic forming. And then your body don't even have the enzyme lactase to even break it down. You were made for monosaccharides and simple sugars. You was made for disaccharides. You was not made for polysaccharides, which actually come from cow's milk. If you look at the breast of a woman and her milk physiology and anatomy, it actually matches coconut milk. It don't even match the milk from a cow. The actual milk in a woman's breast, she has something called monolauric acid or sodium monolauric acid inside of her breast milk. That is the exact same thing that's inside of a coconut. And then when you look at a coconut, it looks like a tit. It looks like an actual breast. Matter of fact, when you go to Jamaica, the way they cut the coconut and the way that you suck on the coconut, it looks like grown people are actually sucking from a nature's breast. That's where it comes from. So the only thing that even matched the milk that you're supposed to be getting, which is galactose, is the coconut. The only things that can really rebuild the immune system, or what I'm going to call the great lymphatic system. It is not the actual milk that come from cows and it come from goats. Now, is these milks, when they not treated, alkaline forming? Yes, they are. Do they have benefits? Yes, they do. But the alkaline benefits is to the calves and to the baby goats, or what you would call the kids. It's not to a little bitty human being, and the show ain't for a grown adult, because you lack everything to break these things down. Especially you, so-called black man, black woman. And that's the reason why as soon as you drink it, you don't even give it 30 minutes later, and guess where you at? You on the toilet with the bubble guts, because your stomach is at a disarray and it's all discombobulated because it's trying to create high acidic juices, gastro juices, to break these things down when it physically can't. This is from my book. This is the chapter called Biology, Genetic and Physiological Difference Between African Americans and European Descendant Populations. Lactose, digestion, and dairy tolerance. One of the most well-known metabolic differences between populations involving lactose intolerance. The ability to digest lactose, the sugar in milk, beyond childhood. Humans only supposed to break down galactose up until 3 years old. After 3, you technically supposed to wean your child from the breast because they stop lacking the enzymes to break down milk. Well, you never have the enzyme lactase to break down the actual milk that come from other species and animals. You will never ever see in your natural born life an animal giving birth to their suckling and taking it to a human woman and having the human woman breastfeed the animal. Women, have you ever breastfed a kid, which is a baby goat? Have you ever breastfed another mammal outside of the human species? So we will have to apply these same concepts, y'all. Europeans have a great tolerance for lactose. And we see a very, very small group in Africans, the Sudan people, the ones that basically they do a bunch of rituals with the cows and the cow urine. And I mean, they literally live around big bulls and cows their whole life. They have adapted a genetic marker that they can still break down milk, and their whole life is around milk and meat, and they thriving. And this shows you too that there's a difference between African Americans, I hate saying that word, and a lot of Africans genetically. It's a big difference, y'all. Big difference. But we ain't gonna get too much into that. But relatively low in many other populations. Globally, it is estimated that about 65 to 75% of adults have some degree of lactose maldigestion, but it is unevenly distributed. In Europeans, especially Northwest Europe, most adults can drink milk. In contrast, in parts of West, East, and Southern Africa, the prevalence reaches 80 to 100%. 80 to 100%. African Americans reflect this heritage. About 70 to 80% of African Americans are lactose intolerant compared to 20 to 30% of European Americans. That is a big gap, y'all. Very, very big gap. And the reason why is they still have the mechanics to break down milk because they evolved them genetics to do so, and you don't have it. So you drink milk, you don't break it down. All of the estrogen in there, all of the bovine mammal growth factors are in there. And guess what it does? It proliferates the tissues. We are not made to consume dairy products. And don't let me get into meat when I'm talking about so-called African Americans, because you have many populations in Africa that have the genetics and that have the proteins and that have the high gastro juices to actually break down meat. But when you start looking at the physiologies and anatomies of so-called African Americans, why don't we have those? So they say that milk have a bunch of calcium in it, which it do, but the milk have the calcium in it for the actual bone structure of the species that the milk came from. So we are not calves, we are not goats, we're human beings, and we produce our own milk to give to our own humans. So when you start drinking this milk, since you already lack the ability and you inhibit and you don't even have the enzymes to break the milk down, when you drink these milks and you take these dairy products and they go inside your system, it's very, very corrosive because you have hydrochloric acid inside of your body trying to break the milk down, but it's not breaking down. It's not breaking casein down, nor it's not breaking lactose down. So these sugars start to ferment. This fermentation yields byproducts. These byproducts is very acidic in nature. So what the body does is you have something called the thyroid and the parathyroid. The parathyroid releases a hormone called calcitonin. Calcitonin then tells the bone to release calcium deposits. The reason why it's telling the bones to release calcium deposits is because these calcium deposits go throughout the bloodstream to buffer out acids. Now, you're going to have a mucosal response because the mucus in the mucosal membrane is a part of the lymphatic defense system, and the lymphatic defense system is your immune system. So in order for the immune system to make it to the blood and get to the actual foreign particles that come from the dairy products that you eaten, and when I'm talking about foreign particles, I'm talking about the insulin growth factors, or what I'm going to call the insulin growth hormones that come from the cow that's not supposed to be a part of your physiology or your anatomy. Mucus come out. And that's why everybody say that mucus is the cause of all disease. No, it's not. The cause of disease is toxicity and deficiencies. Mucus is there trying to save the day. You just never change your diet, and you never stop drinking the milk. You never stop eating the ice cream. You never put away the cheese. You never get rid of the meat. So mucus constantly reproduces itself. And when mucus come in abundance, it smothers the cells and it deprives the cells of all the oxygen. Then the cells go through something called hypoxia, and then the cells die because they suffocate and they can no longer mutate. So they literally go through apoptosis. They will self-annihilate and kill themselves, or you will kill them because you never changed your diet, right? So you would take these dairy products. These dairy products are so foreign to the body because it's against your biology, because the creator did not create you to eat these things. Calcitonin literally goes into the bloodstream, sends out signals. Then your blown calcium matrix start releasing not only phosphorus and magnesium, but calcium. Calcium then floods the bloodstream. That's why people with high calcium need to go get checked. Calcium then floods the bloodstream. Now remember, when you break out calcium from the bones, these are nanometer microcrystals. They have very sharp edges. Imagine it in the bloodstream. What it's going to do is going to cut up arteries. Then when you cut up the artery, guess what cholesterol got to do? Cholesterol acts as a putty to come plug in that artery. And that's the reason why they blame cholesterol for heart attacks and strokes and plaque disease and plaque buildup. It wasn't cholesterol, it was calcium the whole time. Calcium come in and it scrapes the artery walls. What cholesterol do, cholesterol is made to protect the membrane. It's made up of your cells. It protects your brain. It protects the inside of your cells. It helps you with melanin neurotransmitters. When you look at cholesterol, it creates all your sexual hormones, all your pregnenolone, all your testosterone, all your progesterone. Everything that you're talking about to procreate and recreate is made of cholesterol. And another funny thing is they say that you can get it from eating fried foods and this and that. No, 95% of the cholesterol that you make is made inside your body. You don't even get from the food. And the reason why you make so much cholesterol is because it's essential for life. It's three things that the body needs: water, food, and when I mean food, I mean nutrition like minerals, amino acids, carbonic acids, and enzymes, and then cholesterol. That's how vital and that's how important cholesterol is. And that's the reason why your body makes it by itself and you don't need no outside source to make it. I literally call cholesterol the internal band-aid. It's the internal scab, because anytime that you scrape or anytime that you damage an artery, anytime that there's some type of internal bleeding, anytime that you have any type of damage inside of the body, guess who comes save the day? Cholesterol. Now, imagine you drinking milk and then now this milk starts to ferment. You can't break down the casein, this complex amino acid. You don't have the actual lactose enzyme to break down the actual lactose, which is the sugar that come from this milk. And now it becomes acidic and it has to ferment. Now you create all types of acid from these proteins. Now calcium is in the bloodstream going to the acidic spots, because calcium, when it meets the acidic spot, it neutralizes it. Now you got mucus. Mucus is coming to put out the inflammation or the fire from these acidic residue from the actual milk, from the actual cheese, from the actual ice cream or the dairy products that you eat, and including the meat. So look, you have acids mixed with calcium. And I want you to hear the word when I say it: calcium, calcified, calcification, solidification with acid, and then mucus. Imagine these three substances coming together. Do you know what that's called? That's called crystallization. So now these crystals got these hard edges on them, and the blood is trying to push to get them out. So this is going to create something called oncotic pressure or peripheral pressure, because you got these crystals inside the arteries and it's stopping blood flow. So what the adrenal is going to do, it's going to kick out more cortisol. It's going to try to push that blood through. This is going to push on the artery walls and make the blood pressure do what? Go up, go up. So now your 120 systolic, 145 systolic. That bottom number that's supposed to be 80, guess what? That's going up, 90. So now you 145 over 90 from drinking milk. You 145 over 90 from eating cheese. You 145 over 90 for eating meat. And you don't even know it because they never taught you this, because the dairy business makes so many billions of dollars a year, and at the expense of your life and at the expense of you having a heart attack or stroke, they won't tell you this. Milk is killing us, family. We are lactose intolerant for a reason,